we are not going to be able to do this by the time we get into the 90s. And the average length of a Jimmy Buffett album goes from 40 minutes to 55 minutes.
Yeah, that's
Because,
too.
and this is a big problem. I think it's part of the reason why, like, I don't count, like, anything from the CD era as, like, a great album, is because the length of an album gets inflated by so much that it's always becomes too long, and there always ends up being mediocre stuff on it to fill out album length.
Yeah.
Like, I have big issues with the idea of the album format being longer than, like, 45 minutes.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about getting really into King Gizzard is that their albums are all in between like 45 and 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's because they put out like 12 albums a year, don't they?
They haven't actually talked at all about their next album since they released one in June of last year. So they're slowing down a bit, I think, in their old age.
Wow.
They're like 30. They're not old. They're like 35.
Oh boy. Okay. Well.
Okay. Should we start this recording?
Yeah, I guess so.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. And Margarita the bed. It's my own damn fault.
Welcome, everybody, to Discoriography, Wastin Away 2026. We are talking about Jimmy Buffett's first official live album, although not the first time we've heard him, I guess, quote-unquote, live. We've heard the K-San radio concert performance.
This one is 1978's You Had to Be There.
Yes, recorded on the Cheeseburger in Paradise tour. And apparently the tour right after this was called the You Had to Be There tour, and I think it's wild that you named your tour after a live album that you just released.
It's an interesting decision from Jimmy, yeah.
Yeah, considering half of 79's tour is You Had to Be There, and then when Volcano releases, then it's the Volcano tour. So
it does feel like Jimmy's enjoying touring more now that he has a band. It's not just him and maybe Roger.
Yeah, we've known this for a while. We clocked this over the last number of albums. But yeah, I think you can really hear it on this one, and you can hear other stuff too. Before we get into that, let's do the part where we don't have to talk about Jimmy Buffett, because just for context, everyone, for the recording, because of a blip in the recording schedule, we've had to supercharge this week. We did.
We recorded Son of a Sailor 3 days ago.
Yeah, we did Son of a Sailor on Friday. It is currently Monday, and we had the weekend to listen to the 103 minutes of this album, multiple times through for both of us. And on Friday, in 4 days' time, we're going to be doing Volcano. It's a jam-packed Jimmy Buffett week.
So, Kyle, I want to know, with our schedule so jam-packed, have you been listening to things that were not Jimmy?
You know, I almost didn't, and then by the graces of the universe, perhaps the spirit of Jimmy himself raining down upon me anything that wasn't a steel drum or steel drum adjacent, I popped onto the Yacht Rock subreddit this morning. And I don't often go on Reddit. It just happened to be that I popped in there this morning, and somebody asked about this album that came out in 1982 by a guy named Alphonso Jones. It's just titled Alfonso. And what it looks like when you look at the cover, I showed you a cover, it looks like low-budget Thriller.
It's and really, the album cover is very similar to Thriller.
Yeah,
he's like reclining backwards in a tuxedo with like a white coat.
And I listened to it this morning, and actually, it's not bad. Actually, so it doesn't really sound like Thriller. It sounds more like, because it's very disco heavy, it sounds a lot more like Off the Wall, which of course is Michael Jackson's album that came out a few years before Thriller. And the album it's actually not bad. There's some weird songs on there, like the opening track is called Your Booty Makes Me Moody. There is another one called, I don't remember what it's exactly called, and I really want to get it right. Let me just check this real quick. I'm trying to open up previous tabs, and it's just a bunch of Jimmy Buffett set lists from BuffettWorld.com. Such is the life of the Buffett podcaster, Alfonso. So
Yeah.
it is called "I Want to Give You My Love Till You Scream." Yeah, and the second song on the album is a song called "Low Down," 2 words, and as it turns out, it is actually just a cover of the Boz Scaggs song "Low Down" from 1976's Silk Degrees, one of my favorite albums of all time, one of my favorite songs. And if you ever take me to a karaoke bar, that's the song I do, because I do a mean Boz Scaggs impression, man. So that was a nice little highlight for me. Where
It's
this
also-
morning,
also-
just in the nick of time, I got to listen to something that wasn't Jimmy Buffett in between.
Well, it's an interesting decision as well, because there's a little bit of Jimmy feeds into the disco hate on this album a little bit,
Yeah,
on
he
one line,
does.
which is like whatever.
So, Tom, what have you been listening to that's not Jimmy Buffett? Oh boy, okay.
Yeah, I have not been listening to music that's not Jimmy Buffett. I've been listening to Jimmy. I've been sort of getting back into Behind the Bastards listening this
Excellent
weekend.
podcast. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun listening to various episodes of that. I finally got around to listening to the Buford Pusser episode, which was
give you some background on.
Give me some background on that. That was how I got into it.
I don't
Actually.
think he mentions the Jimmy Buffett encounter in those episodes, does he?
He does mention Jimmy Buffett briefly, but he forgets his name. He says, "What's him, the Margaritaville guy, Jimmy Buffett."
Oh, God.
And then I also listened to a different episode in which Robert also mentions Jimmy. I don't remember why he brought up Jimmy. I think it was just like he was just like, I need to do anything that isn't think about. I don't know. It was like a Holocaust episode or something. And he's like, I'm gonna go listen to like Jimmy Buffett or something. Bye.
What a beautiful endorsement of Jimmy Buffett's music. Are you tired of researching the Holocaust? Listen to Jimmy Buffett.
I mean, honestly, as we've talked about, like one of the things about Jimmy's music is that it is better the less you think about it.
It's also,
And,
I mean, the escapism works better if you actually are trying to escape from something.
It makes me wonder if I've told this story to you before. I don't know if I've told it on the podcast. An album that's very important to me is the Harsh Noise album Pulse Demon by Merzbow. It is an album that I honestly think was key for me finishing my master's degree. And the reason was that there was one incident where I had just been reading so much, and I was TAing 2 classes. I was taking 2 full classes, one of which was an elective. I was working on my thesis research. I was just completely and my brain just broke. Right? Like I couldn't read more than like 2 sentences and retain information. It just it literally was like, it scared me. I was like, I can't think straight. And part of the problem is that when I do things in my off time, I like to analyze things critically, like this, right? Like this is what I like doing in my off time. And so there's part of me that wonders if at that time I could have listened to Jimmy and just sort of refused to critically analyze him. But also part of the problem was that I couldn't. And so I ended up listening to this, getting really into this crazy Harsh Noise album, because I cannot think about it, right? It is I don't know how to analyze Harsh Noise at all, aside from just being damn, that's crazy. And so I was listening to it for my entire almost 2-hour commute every day. There and back from the campus. I would just throw on Pulse Demon and then just let complete Harsh Noise just surround me as I drove back and forth.
Yeah. Sometimes it's important to do that. I literally just got a real world reminder of that right now, which is apparently I was supposed to be in Jenner at 12 o'clock today, and it is currently 12:11. I just got a text me, are we still on for today? And I was just like, whoops. I knew there was something else I had going on today. It's a busy week. I have so much shit going on.
It's busy. It's busy. And you still got to listen to Volcano.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I do.
So anyway, yeah, music wise, I've been listening to Jimmy. That's really all there is to say.
Look, you get 2 days to get ready for a album that is over 100 minutes long. It's only gonna be Jimmy.
I know what I'm listening to after we finish recording this podcast. Is just gonna throw on Brad by Charlie XCX. I know that's what we're doing next.
Yeah, I was thinking about live albums. I think the one I'd want to listen to after this is a good palate cleanser is what I consider is probably one of the best live albums of all time, which is Sam Cooke at the Harlem Square Club, 1963, which was, I don't know if you're aware of this. So Sam Cooke obviously murdered in 1964. The record company recorded it but did not release it at the time in 1963. It was released 21 years after his death in 1985. And the reason they didn't release it is because it was Sam singing to a black crowd in Harlem Square, New York. And it's just so very like raw and gritty compared to what they were trying to sell as like Sam to a mainstream like mixed audience at the time. So it's really interesting to listen to that and hear how impassioned his live performance is in front of in front of essentially a black audience. Because all you really ever heard was on the radio at the time was Sam Cooke tailor-made to be appealing to white people, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good little artifact of that.
So I have 3 live albums that I think about as like my favorites.
I believe we talked about Stop Making Sense on the last
obviously,
time we were talking about live albums.
We've discussed this before. I'm a big fan of Stop Making Sense. The other 2 that I'm really big fans of are Daft Punk's Alive 2007, which is my favorite Daft Punk release. I think it's better than any of their studio albums. And Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison.
All
which
good
I think
choices,
like
yeah.
Just great shit. We are not listening to, I think, one of the truly great live albums today. So today we're talking about, as we've established, 1978's You Had to Be There, recorded live by James Buffett and the Coral Reefer Band.
I'm not going to talk about much context because really the only thing that's going on between the last album and this album is that
he's on tour.
He's on tour.
I have.
This is the tour. We're hearing the tour. They recorded 6 shows in Atlanta and Miami towards the end of the tour, and that's what makes up this album. So
I have one interesting piece of context about this. This album, which is that at some point on this tour before they recorded this, Jimmy broke his leg, and so sometimes you'll hear him talk, like mention. I think he mentions it on
right.
Son of Sailor. The cast is because he's literally in a cast on stage.
Yes, so he breaks his leg in like a softball game earlier in the year, and at some point he ended up breaking it again because he didn't let it heal long enough, and that's when he changes a line in Margaritaville during live performances from cut my heel, had to cruise on back home, to like broke my leg twice, had to move on back home. And that's where that came from. I don't
really like most of Jimmy's ad-libs and like lyric changes in this live album. I think that one's fun.
Yeah. So let's see. So the lineup for the Coral Reefer Band here is, in addition to Jimmy, I mean, he mentions it on one of the songs. He does a introduction of everyone. I can't remember. Barry Chance on guitar has replaced Tim Krekel. Or no, actually, Barry Chance replaced somebody who replaced Tim Krekel. But Tim Krekel was the lead guitarist, I think, the last time we checked on the Coral Reefer lineup.
I think the guitarists have become a revolving door.
Yeah.
Roger's long gone.
Yeah, and then Jay Spell on the piano, Kenneth Buttrey on drums. Those are the newer guys. And then we got like the normal 3 fingers, Mike Utley, Harry Daly. And then we've got Deborah McCall on backing vocals. And in a special guest performance on He Went to Paris, Tim Krekel, former Coral Reefer guitarist, and I believe the lead guitarist on Son of a Sailor.
I think so.
He is the guest electric guitarist accompanying Jimmy on He Went to Paris, which was otherwise just Jimmy on guitar. So it's 2 guys on guitar.
The instrumentation on this album is like kind of weird. There is a chunk, we're going to talk about it later.
It's very
There's a chunk
eclectic,
of the album,
frankly, actually, yeah.
Yeah, so like the first side of the album is all just like everyone's just there and playing. The second side of the album opens with it's just Jimmy on acoustic guitar. And it's it kind of like echoes the K-Sound recording a little bit. Obviously, just Jimmy is a little bit different than like having like 3 people on acoustic guitar and one person absolutely shredding a mandolin.
Yeah.
And then like there's several songs where it's just Jimmy, and then on Why Don't We Get Drunk, they get the rest of the Coral Reefers back out there.
Yeah. So this is the album sequencing is meant to echo like the format of his live shows at the time. So, and I think it pretty closely follows like the actual like set list, where it's essentially like, I believe, a set of like 5 or 6 songs in intermission, another set of 5 or 6 songs, all with the full band, another intermission, like a 3-song set that's just Jimmy on guitar, and then they come back for like another 3 or 4 songs with the full band, and then the encores. And sometimes they did essentially 2 encore sets where one of them was 2 songs and then another one was one last song. And often that took the form of the so the closeout for all these shows was Tampico Trauma. That was the final song in the set list. And then they would do a double encore of Morris's Diner and or Morris's Nightmare and Dixie Diner. And then sometimes they would come back out for a second encore and they would do the last line. And I'm fucking pissed off we did not get to hear that.
Okay, so there's 6 songs that are known to have been played on this tour but are not on this album. And it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Yeah. I would say more good than bad. So the 6 songs that are known to have been on this album that are not on this album anymore or been played in the tour but aren't on the album are Banana Republics, Steve Goodman. We talked about that. We like that song. Okay. Cheeseburger in Paradise. Okay. Worse.
Yeah, definitely worse.
Yeah. Coast of Marseilles.
Oh, man.
Great. The Last Line. Fantastic. Yep. Livingston Saturday Night. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And Mañana, which I think
also
probably...
frankly, who gives a shit?
I don't care that much about Mañana. I feel like it probably is fun, like, live. We're almost certainly going to hear it live at some point. I'm going to be proven wrong. Like,
yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But, I don't really care that much about Livingston Saturday Night and Mañana. I don't really care about Missing Cheeseburger in Paradise. But, like, honestly, losing Banana Republic's Coast of Marseille and Last Line is like, I know exactly where I would slot those into this set list as well.
Yeah, it would have been nice that if the Last Line actually got to be a closer, because I mentioned that it's like the perfect closer for an album anyway when we talked about it on the studio album it appeared on. But the fact that it actually was the closer for the shows, and instead we end with Morris's Nightmare and fucking Dixie Diner, which I feel like the fucking was misplaced there. I hate Morris's Nightmare with a burning passion, and Dixie Diner is just kind of nothing for me, frankly.
Dixie's Diner is fine. It's whatever, right? Like Dixie's Diner has one. Dixie Diner has one major flaw, and it's that it fails to cleanse your palate from Morris's Nightmare.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get to them. In order, the set list starts with Son of a Sailor, then goes Pencil Thin Mustache, Wonder Why We Ever Go Home, Landfall, Miss You So Badly, Havana Daydreamin', Margaritaville, Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes, Come Monday, Perrier Blues, Grapefruit Juicy Fruit, God's Own Drunk, He Went to Paris, The Captain and the Kid, Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw, A Pirate Looks at 40, Tampico Trauma, Morris's Nightmare, Dixie Diner.
I will say, like, Son of a Sailor, I'm happy to hear it without ship's bells.
I think they're clearly, like, hitting an anvil or something in this to, like, sort of be the ship's bell. I think it sounds better than the ship's bell does.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I think I actually do prefer this arrangement of it. I noticed on the second listen that like the electric guitar that's being played in like the left channel is actually it's really nice and mellow. I think it's a good part of the song. I wish it was mixed higher, frankly.
Yeah, maybe. It's the band makeup on this album is like pretty interesting. I think it's very telling that
ship's bell of its own.
Sorry, I knocked something over. I think it's very telling that we talked a lot on the last couple of records about Jimmy moving in a more rock direction and out of a country direction, and you can kind of tell like he's jettisoned a lot of like country music instrumentation
in this.
And I think the thing that is most keenly missing is a steel guitar, right?
Obviously,
like there's sections where it's like you can really tell that like that's like missing.
Well,
but
I mean,
like,
in the because Miss You So Badly's on here, and you don't even hear like the shitty steel guitar that was on that studio version.
No, you don't. Much less like places where the steel guitar is like really nice. Like you don't have the steel guitar parts on Havana Daydreamin'. That sucks.
Yeah, it's because the guitar that's the guitars that are doing like the twanginess that you would hear in the steel guitar, or just in a twangy guitar on some of these older, more country tinged songs, they have a different tone to them now. They're like a little twangy, but they're really more they're moving towards that like R&B feel almost, which is big at the time in popular music. It's crossing in the mainstream because we have to remember here that like we're in that period of time from like 77 to 82 about 82 or 83 where like what's big on like especially the adult contemporary scene. Remember that Jimmy Buffett's really an adult contemporary artist more than a mainstream artist, is a lot of that R&B and a little bit of funk and disco influence, a little bit of jazz.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like this recording of Son of Sailor. I think it's a fun
what
song.
I don't like
yeah
is I really didn't think I could dislike this song more, but this version of Pencil Thin Mustache really grates on me.
It's really obnoxious.
Yeah, it's because they're doing like it's got that like jaunty like vaudeville music hall sort of thing, like you know like when like Paul McCartney would do like Maxwell's Silver Hammer. It's like duh, 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 duh. It's that sort of arrangement, and I wasn't really a fan of like the older like Western swing of the original version, but this thing fucking sucks. And what I really hate the most is the fact that there's like a false ending at the end where it's like, oh, they're not even going to do the Brill Cream, a little dabble do you thing. And then they come back with it.
Yeah, it's really...
Jesus.
This recording of Pencil Thin Mustache is like designed to grate on my nerves. It's really obnoxious. I really hope that the false ending isn't a regular part of live recordings of Pencil Thin Mustache.
I really hope not. I wrote naively on my first listen right after this is like it's the worst. It's like I predict that this will be the worst part of the album because there's no way it could get worse. But folks, it does. It does.
You fool. It does get worse. It does get worse in this album.
But I was sort of thinking because of course this is a song we've already heard recorded in 74 arrangement. I was thinking about like how much not only the arrangement but like his crowd work in between songs, because there's a lot of dialogue in between songs on this too, how much that's going to change from what we heard in 74.
I mean, a big part is that he's not completely piss drunk on this recording.
Potentially.
You know?
There's at least one song where I'm fairly certain that like he had either gone back and taken like a line of cocaine or two in the intermission. So he's not completely sober, definitely.
I don't think he's sober, but he's not like that K-San recording. A lot of what makes it as enjoyable as it is that Jimmy's just completely piss drunk.
Yeah.
Right? This is not the same. He is not as drunk.
Yeah, it's not authentic, you know? I need the guy to be falling down blackout drunk and singing, you know? Which, to be fair, his performance sometimes make you think he might be, because there are some bad performances from Jimmy on this album we'll get to. I
didn't get any particular performance on this album that I thought was especially bad from Jimmy, except for the songs that are really awful.
I think you can really tell on some of the ones where it's just him on guitar. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We're still in the first disc here.
So I don't have anything to say about Wonder Why We Ever Go Home.
It's 4 times we've listened to this song, and we never have anything to say. Okay, I will say this. I did actually finally make a note about Wonder Why We Ever Go Home. And it's the guitar solo in the middle of it is actually like searing. And frankly, that guitar solo just does not belong on this song because this song is so nothing.
It really doesn't. I don't even remember the guitar solo, to be honest with you.
Didn't last too long, but I was like, whoa, this does not belong on this song at all.
I think this recording of Landfall is very fun.
I mean, I really like Landfall on the album version. And I know we were talking about like it's a little kitschy when at the end he's like, what would I do if I met Lucille Ball and things like that. But of course it works really good in a live setting.
Yeah, I also think that like one of the things is that we've talked a lot about how like we don't really love Jimmy moving in a more rock and roll direction. That is like, I think that like playing the rock songs in like a live setting does play to like strengths of like the Coral Reefer Band especially. Like this is a good spot for them, and so like that's why this version of Landfall is like pretty good. And honestly, I really like the version of Tampico Trauma they play on this, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say about Miss You So Badly is that instead of surgeons in the hotel, it's Coneheads, which
why
Jimmy
is he shouting out
Buffett's
Coneheads?
Jimmy Buffett's a fucking
'Cause he's a
nerd. Also, I mean, like we obviously knew he would be familiar with SNL because I mean
Yeah.
he ends up on SNL as a guest artist. But I wasn't quite certain because like I mean I'm sure that like you were in the same boat as me. Where like Coneheads I know is an SNL sketch. The movie came out in the 90s. I wasn't quite certain how old the sketch was, but apparently the sketch debuted on the January 15th, 1977 show, which was hosted by Ralph Nader.
Was Jimmy the musical guest on that episode?
No, he wasn't the musical guest on that. He's a musical guest, I think, on this tour, because I vaguely recall seeing him with his leg propped up in a cast when I looked up Jimmy Buffett SNL.
I'm gonna have to try to find that episode and listen to it before our next record. Or
Yeah,
watch it before
it's
our recording.
propped up on like a canoe, because of course.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I kind of prefer this recording of Missy So Badly, but I don't think it's like
yeah, because it
significantly
doesn't have
better.
that god awful steel guitar at the beginning.
Yeah, like I think the electric guitar fits the intro better. But I think like a big part of it is just that like on the album version, Miss You So Badly follows
Oh right, it follows in the shelter.
So it's just like a wild whiplash. On this one, it follows Landfall, which is just kind of like whatever. Who cares?
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I guess is like it's a little less reggae in the chorus here.
Yeah, I
the way
prefer
the
that as
organ's
well.
being played.
Miss You So Badly is the end of the first side, the first of 4.
So
again, this album's over an hour and a half.
Havana Daydreamin'. I've got nothing bad to say about the song. I like the song.
I like the song. I do think that like not having a steel guitar is like rough for this recording, but I think it's a fine recording.
I mean, it's just this and Captain the Kid that are representative of this album. And the thing about Captain the Kid, of course, is that like I think in Jimmy's mind he doesn't think of it as from Havana Daydream and the album. He just thinks of it as floating around like rent free in his head because it's such a personal song.
Havana Daydreamin' is like this really it's this kind of bizarrely like it's like an important album for Jimmy for a number of reasons, right? The biggest of which being that that's the one where he gets a Coral Reefer band, right? Like an actual one. Prior to Havana Daydreamin' releasing, the Coral Reefers were like session musicians and a bunch of fictional characters that Jimmy had come up with. I mentioned that I obtained a physical copy of a like vinyl pressing of Havana Daydreamin', and the album liners have a little letter from Jimmy in them in which he mentions that like his fictional Coral Reefers are now real Coral Reefers. That comes up a couple of times in this album, but I think it's not a coincidence that like leading into Havana Daydream is when he has this like intro where he talks a little bit about like this is the band that should be playing Jimmy Buffett music.
I went to look, and this was all prompted by the fact that like in the intro, and I have to say, looking at set lists from this tour, it seems like Pencil Thin Mustache, which came out in 1974, was always before Havana Daydreamin' on the set list. Like it was always song number 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
And Havana Daydreamin' comes down like number 8, 9 on the list of the set list, right? He referred to this as being from one of the old albums.
Yeah.
And it fucking seems strange to talk about an album that you only released 2 years before. It's only 2 studio albums old. And I think Jimmy's like recontextualizing the history of his career. Because, like, we know, like, I sent you that one Tampa Tribune article from, like, February of 1977, which is a month after Changes in Latitudes comes out, where he's already saying, like, he doesn't like Havana Daydreaming. He didn't think it was a good album. And pretty much as soon as Changes in Latitude comes out, he drops Havana Daydreaming songs from the playlist. Like, no more Kick It in Second Wind. No more, like, the only one that pops up, you're going to enjoy this. The only one that pops up, I went through the next year, 79 tours. The only one that pops up on the playlist is Big Rig, and it's because Fingers sings it. So it's like, got to give a song to Fingers to sing. Oh, which, by the way, so the guy introducing Jimmy at the beginning, who's also mic'd up, is Fingers. So the other voice we're hearing all the time is Fingers.
Is he the one who does the talking part that leads into Dixie Diner?
I think so.
All right. He's doing some interesting image work on this live album.
Yeah.
Right? But he's literally like calling it into like explicit view. right?
Yeah.
But I think that like one of the things is that like Havana Daydreamin' is like a very interesting album. And it kind of stands apart from a lot of like Jimmy's other work. And I think that like a lot of it has to do with just like the fact that like there's not really any of Jimmy's like sort of classic trashy songs on Havana Daydreamin'. It's not yet in this like rock direction that Jimmy's like in now.
No, but the weird
It's
part is that it's very present in Key West, in that
yeah,
so many of the songs are literally set in Key West and they explicitly tell you that. And you would think that that would be part of his image.
between this album, between like this is around the time that he's moved to Aspen as well,
Yeah.
right? Like he's moved out of Key West, leading up to like recording Volcano, and so it's this kind of thing where it's like I'm wondering if like Key West becomes less important than the Caribbean in general does at some point around this time period.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because
it's become the like the armchair safari place for people who want to experience the Caribbean now. Because because if you're in the US, you could just drive to Key West. You don't need a passport.
I mean, I think also, like I said, while we were talking about Havana Daydreamin', among things about Key West is that like you get to experience the Caribbean while still being in the US, right? So it's like, one, you can drive there. Two, the other part is that like when you have this like sense of Latin America that it is like a less lawful place than like, you know, the other Caribbean islands, than Mexico, than like South America, then like Key West becomes like very compelling on like that sense, even though like Key West is going to eventually become like the Disneyland version of the Caribbean, right? Like it is literally in the Caribbean, but also like it's so touristy.
Yeah, I know. It's the Disney-fied version. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, but I do wonder if like, so it seems like it's interesting because like a lot of like the things that we've really liked about Jimmy's music are like things that are anchored in Key West, right? It's the you know, it's the B-sides of White Sport Coat and A1A. It's, you know, all of Havana Daydreamin'. And like a lot of that stuff is not here.
Yeah. No, it's not present anymore. And, you know, part of that...
Like, we have A Pirate Looks at 40. I think that's the only other thing. I think it's the only thing that's on either of those two B-sides that's here.
Well, let's see. He Went to Paris is on the B-side to White Sport Coat.
Oh, you're right. He Went to Paris and A Pirate Looks at 40, which are probably the two best pulls, but like that's it.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about Jimmy's image, we need to talk about the dialogue that he gives to the audience before the next song, which is Margaritaville.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy is already recontextualizing Margaritaville as an aspirational place to want to go to, rather than this depressing place that you don't want to be stuck in. This is a facet.
Margaritaville? It's wherever you want it to be.
Yeah. I think this is a facet of like Jimmy Buffett, like in the wake of his success. I think part of it is he's got a bit of imposter syndrome about his success. And he doesn't want to be the kind of guy who seems standoffish about like explaining his material to the masses. The person I think about the most in terms of all this is like Bobby Gentry, who had Ode to Billy Joe. And the only question she ever got was, what did the narrator and Billy Joe throw off the Tallahatchie Bridge that caused Billy Joe to commit suicide by jumping off the bridge the next day? And her answer to it all was, it doesn't matter because the song's not actually about that. The song is about like this construction of people talking to each other and never listening. It's about the relationship of characters. And the thing about that is also, doesn't it sound familiar that that's kind of Jimmy's strength, is talking about the relationship of characters and how people interact with each other in songs, right? He's good at doing character development. So it feels weird that Jimmy wouldn't also say, you would expect that Jimmy, the artist, would really want to say, it doesn't matter where Margaritaville is and you wouldn't want to be there. Margaritaville is just a place you don't want to stay, right?
It's this interesting thing. I watched a Dan Olson Folding Ideas video about this a few days ago, about the film adaptation of Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation.
Right.
And he was mostly talking about like all of these like weird film YouTubes that like reduce something to like a couple of sound bites and then theorize about like the weird like alien science fiction presence in Annihilation, and don't talk at all about the complex metaphors and character relations in that book and movie, which are really like the core of that story and like what it's about. Like the weird alien presence is like interesting, but it's not really like the point. And just sort of like this weird reduction. And it's like, it is like this thing that's very popular amongst like very uncritical people, I think. I don't know. This is interesting because Jimmy has like fully leaned in, right? Like,
yeah. And I think part of that leaning in is this, I'm going to say, quote unquote, lost verse, because we're going to enter a bit of conspiracy theory territory here. Is that I don't think the lost verse was ever a lost verse. Like, the story is that this, and by the way, for those of you who don't know what the lost verse is to Margaritaville, it's apparently old men in tank tops cruising the gift shops, checking out Chiquitas down by the store. They dream about weight loss, wish they could be their own boss. Those 3-day vacations can become such a bore. Now, this was reputed to have been removed from the song to make the song, quote-unquote, radio-friendly, which could mean one of two things. Either it's radio-friendly as in the length of the track, because Margaritaville's like 4 minutes and 13 seconds or something like that on the album.
Yeah.
Or it's radio friendly as in content of the lyrics. And I don't think either makes sense.
No, it's not, because even this is like, this recording is still under 5.
Yeah. So it's not inappropriate for the radio, like lyrically, and it certainly isn't the least inappropriate thing Jimmy's ever released on an album. I mean, like there's Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw, which he's still performing at this time, for one. You know, Changes in Latitudes, which was the other single off of that album, contains the line Good Times and Riches and Son of a Bitches, and all that was done was that it was dubbed Some Bruises and Stitches over Son of a Bitches for the single release. So they could have done that. The other thing is that there's no reason to believe that it was removed from length. When you realize that Changes in Latitude, Changes in Attitude, it's Jimmy's longest album so far. It's only 41 minutes and 28 seconds. So it is short enough that you could add another, like, and I'm being generous here, like 45 seconds to the song. And I'm only taking that because like 4:53, which is the length of this version, is about 45 seconds longer than the album version.
Yeah.
We also have to keep in mind that the single edit for Margaritaville was not 4 minutes and 9 seconds. It's not the one from the album. It was cut even further. So why is it that it was cut twice on the album version and the single version? Because the single version ran to 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It cut out the instrumental break, the third verse, and the final refrain, in addition to speeding up the song by half a step. So the studio version sounds in D and the radio edit sounded in E flat. Why wouldn't they leave the full unedited song on the album if it wasn't a matter of space and it wasn't a matter of reprehensible lyrical content? We also have to remember this is the label that almost let Please Take Your Drunken 15-Year-Old Girlfriend Home to go to print. And it allowed Jimmy to say fuck on West Nashville Grand Ballroom Gown. But the thing that strikes me the most, right, because I talked about this a lot on Son of a Sailor, is it doesn't sound anything like the rest of the song, because for one, it's in third person when the rest of the song is in first person. And what this means is that the purpose of the verse itself is not to further the original idea of the song, that Margaritaville is a place where you actually are wasting your life away and you don't want to be stuck because it's full of losers like the narrator trying to in vain to pretend that everything is all right. What it's doing is describing a place where middle American male tourists come to perv on young women and pretend they're free to do whatever the hell they want for a fleeting moment before going back to their normal 9 to 5. And for a lot of people that go to Jimmy Buffett concerts, they like that idea.
Like on one hand, like there's part of me that just wants to say it's tropical pastiche, but on the other hand, it's like there's this fantastic like old Chris Fleming sketch, like one of those old like car sketches that he used to do, in which he's talking about Jimmy Buffett, and he talks about Jimmy Buffett's insane brand of vacation pornography. And so far to this point, it has not felt like that, right? The lost verse of Margaritaville is the first time that like it's like the last verse of Margaritaville and also Morris's Nightmare both feel like it is this vacation focused like thing instead of like a tropics focused thing.
Yeah. And those are
very different things.
The thing is that, like, in that opening dialogue where he's talking about Margaritaville's wherever the hell you want, like, he's obviously already buying into the image of Margaritaville as, like, an idyllic place by the sea rather than a depressing place. So the other major thing about about why that verse doesn't sound anything like the rest of the song is because it doesn't have a major facet of something we've discussed many times before. We discussed it in Death Valley Lives, in He Went to Paris, and Tin Cup Chalice.
The chorus doesn't advance.
It doesn't have an advance in the chorus. Exactly.
Well, I mean, like, he kind of jettisons that in order to just, like, poke fun at, like, the people in the coral reefers as well here.
Yeah, he talks about a promoter, Cecil, and Ryan, who I don't know the fuck who it is, but he reuses the hell it could be my fault from the second chorus. I went ahead and looked at, like, other versions that use the lost verse, and it really only ever reuses the hell it could be my fault. It doesn't advance at all. And this is, years after Jimmy Buffett has a way to advance, show a passage of time or a passage of, an evolution of the mind.
That's extremely obnoxious also because, like, that's, I think, arguably the best part of the song.
Simply put, I've put my case forward. I don't think this is a historically relevant verse. I think he created this after the fact. I think it's part of his image.
I mean, I have to be honest. I think you've presented, like, a compelling amount of evidence to that fact.
Thank you.
I also think it's kind of irrelevant because I think the lost verse sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the long and the short of it, really.
Like, I think it is, like, a compelling concept that it was written afterwards, which kind of takes away the mythologization of it. Even if it was this secret, like, fourth verse that, like, he had to cut from the original recording of Margaritaville, I think it's very easily the worst verse in the song every time he plays it. It doesn't advance the chorus, which is part of it, right? If he had recorded also this lost verse, it would make sense that he would have written another chorus advancement, right? At the time for that. It's just not there, right? And I think that's, like, all of this is like this gun. This, like, this is probably written after the fact, and even if it wasn't, it's still the worst verse in the song. It sucks. I don't know if there's much else to say about it. One of the things is, like, the other thing I have to say about this recording is that, like, I think instrumentally I like it much less than the Changes in Latitudes version,
which is interesting because it doesn't have those recorders and flutes that you disliked.
But also, and this is weird, I miss the vibraphones. The piano sting that they use to replace the vibraphone sting is so much worse.
It's very generic is what it is. It doesn't stand out at all.
No, it's like or something like that. It is worse. There's a couple of places where it's
essentially the Muzak version.
Yeah, there's a couple of places in this album where, like, they would have vibraphones or, like, this other, like, sort of exotica percussion that just isn't on this live recording for, like, it's harder to transport that stuff. Yeah, kind of makes sense. But it's also
he will eventually have that stuff.
He will eventually have that stuff, but it's not here. This is, like, a fully, like, traditional rock band setup in terms of music, like, little sneak preview for Steel Drum Watch, like, and it's, like, kind of weird because it's like now I kind of miss that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of songs that have become sort of just generic in instrumentation, I don't know if you would also like to skip Changes in Latitude, but I would.
I have not a word to say about Changes in Latitudes. I think
let's go on.
Better than the album.
Let's go on to Come Monday, because I don't like this version of Come Monday.
Yeah?
Which it surprised me, because I was like, I wasn't big on the whole Nashville sound when I heard it on the album version and Living and Dying in 3/4 Time. But now that, like, there's no strings on it, I kind of do miss the more traditional ballady sound of it. I really think that, like, I don't know, part of it is, like, the audience reverence to it. Like, it sort of feels like there's something about the way that Jimmy is singing and how quiet the audience is, because they've been raucous up to this point, and they're going to continue to be raucous on other songs. They'll be reverent on a couple of songs, one of which really surprised me, but they're really quiet and reverent on this. And what it really feels like to me is like when you listen to, like, a Grateful Dead live show and the rest of the band leaves the stage and it's just Mickey Hart and Bill Kreutzmann hitting drums for 30 minutes, and every Deadhead would tell you, like, nah man, you gotta take a tab of acid, and it's the most enlightening experience in the world to listen to those guys do their drum solos on top of each other. And it's not, because that sounds fucking bad, but it really did feel to me like everybody in the audience is like, hush, hush, it's time for father's wisdom. And everyone closed their eyes and swayed gently as Jimmy frankly gives a bad vocal performance in this song.
Yeah, I don't think this recording of Come Monday is very good. I think it's a strong like portrayal of it. I'm not a listener of the Grateful Dead, but like there are other like there are things that like sort of evoke that, where it's like everyone's like, we gotta be quiet for this one, right? And it's like, why are you being quiet for this one? That I've heard before, where I'm like, this one's bad. And I don't like think Come Monday is a bad song, but I think this recording of it is much worse.
Yeah. So there are a few songs on this album that Jimmy Buffett has not recorded before, and I don't think that he ever records this for a studio album, but it's called Perrier Blues. And so, you know, honorable boat drink to Perrier. It's not an alcohol, but, you know, hey, it made it in the name of a song.
It is one of two songs that, well, technically three, but two songs that Jimmy writes and premieres in this live album.
Yes.
And this one I think is very forgettable.
Yeah, frankly, I mean, I figured that we probably weren't going to do AHAG awards this week, but I would probably give it the AHAG award.
Like, the thing is that, like, there's only, like, I don't feel like giving, like, an AHAG award to, like, you know, like, I guess, like, I've already forgotten about why we ever go home. Yeah, literally, like, but, like, the only thing about Perrier Blues that I really like is, like, it's, like, outro with the Wish I Could Lose Those Perrier Blues.
Yeah.
And I like that. I don't really like the rock instrumentation that goes along with it. I don't know. I just think it's kind of a messy song that's not very good.
Yeah, I really dislike when artists will do songs that are called like blues, and then they're very clearly not blues.
Not blues.
Or so generically a 3-chord structure with like a call and response format that it's like, well, all you ever did is hear what like the basic concept of what a blues song was, but you've never listened to a blues song.
Yeah, I don't think it was a good song. I don't have much else to say about it, but
no,
it is the end.
I don't either. But there's a lot of nautical themes on that song. He's on a boat and stuff.
Yeah,
so that's
he's
worth
on a
mentioning.
Boat. He's in a hurricane shelter, I guess.
But like, whatever the hell, you know.
Anchorage. Yeah.
Let's flip the record.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, see you guys on technically side C.
Side 3. Yeah, side C. Side C is interesting. So
here we are with Jimmy Buffett specifically saying that this is all, as he calls it, Jimmy Buffett drunk Caribbean music.
Caribbean rock and roll music, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so side C opens and Jimmy is being very self-aware on the intro to Grapefruit Juicy Fruit, right? First of all, he says, he's talking about alcohol. He says it's very important to have alcohol for this Jimmy Buffett drunk Caribbean rock and roll music, which is like a very clear sign that image has become a very important matter for Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
Like maintaining an image is like a key aspect to his like personality. And I think that like a big part of that is sort of he's become this spokesperson for like, you know, quote unquote mellow lifestyles, as that Rolling Stone article I talked about on that compilation album a couple weeks ago is talking about. And it's just this like interesting. He is performing with what he refers to as the original Coral Reefer band.
Which is just him,
because all the other Coral Reefers originally were fictional. So it's just Jimmy out there with an acoustic guitar for a few songs on this side, which honestly is like, you said that you don't think his performances on this are great. I kind of like this side a lot.
So one more thing about his dialogue is he finally does explain what a grapefruit juicy fruit actually is as a drink. Yeah. It's a purple passion. There were a couple of weeks in a row where you were like, you have to add it to boat drinks. And I was like, I don't know what he's referring to, though. All he ever mentions by name is gin. And now we know what it is. It's a purple passion. Yeah. Okay.
Now we know.
Spoiler alert, it's gonna be added on boat drinks. This song first and foremost, with the music, no steel guitar makes me sad.
Yeah, like I think a really big part of like the original recording of the song, and a lot of what made it enjoyable was like the steel guitar being played in like that slack key mode.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't actually hate just like the solo acoustic on this. I don't think it's as good, but I think it's like fine.
So here's the thing, like Grapefruit Juicy Fruit. Well, it's not a difficult song to play on the guitar,
No.
especially I mean if you wrote it 6 years ago and you've been playing it for that long. But Jimmy's vocals on this are bad. This is the song where I was like, I think Jimmy might have done a line, because between the way he's speaking right before he introduces this song and the way he puts emphasis on some of the words in the song, it really makes me feel like he's been doing some cocaine in the back.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I don't.
Also, I do have to mention, when he mentions the point of the alcoholic drink, he says it in an incredibly rapey tone.
Yeah, it's really. I can't even taste the alcohol. That's the plan. Like, don't love that line from Jimmy.
Yeah, it really does sour the mood a lot.
It does. That's it. I don't think this recording is like. It's interesting because it's like the actual song is not that interesting. It's kind of just like a slightly worse version of Grapefruit Juicy Fruit. The intro is very interesting for a variety of reasons.
I mean,
like,
Jimmy reveals a lot in what he says between songs.
He does. The sort of stripped back like instrumentation on this specific side 3, is like I said, it kind of calls back to the KSN recording in like places, but like for the most part not so much, because for the most part it is just Jimmy, and like that's a little bit harder. No, that said, there's only 4 songs in which it's just Jimmy.
And I think it really works well on definitely the next song and the song afterwards, the stripped back arrangements. God's Own Drunk, we've been waiting for this one since we first heard the song.
God damn, yeah.
11-minute version of just Jimmy on guitar. I love it.
It's really fun. It's like, the thing about it is like it's very rambly. It's definitely less tight than the album version, but that's kind of totally fine. Jimmy really was built from the ground up to perform this song.
The point. So there's a couple things. So number one, this is his second reference to Coneheads on the album.
He does mention Coneheads again.
Yeah,
I guess he really liked the
he also sketch. When he introduced the song, he said it was written by Lord Buckley, and I have to wonder, how in the fuck does this become an actual rights issue in the 80s when it happens?
Like, wouldn't he just
wouldn't he just immediately be like, oh yeah, that's fair, he should have royalties? Like, I don't know what the point of the lawsuit is. Like, what's Jimmy disputing if he's already here in 78 saying Lord Buckley wrote this?
I don't know. Yeah, this recording is like, it's really fun. Everyone's crazy for God's Own Drunk, and they're very like we talked a little bit about like having the like recording studio crowd on like the album version was like really important for how enjoyable that was, because you hear everybody laughing. This is really like the kind of song where it's like recordings of it need a crowd. You need people around who
I want to hear a 74 version of this. I gotta dig it up, man.
It's so fun. I really like this recording of God's Own Drunk. I think Jimmy does it great. And like, again, it's 11 minutes of Jimmy just like rambling. It's fantastic.
It's great. When we started this podcast, I really did not think that somebody would have said 11 minutes of Jimmy Buffett rambling around to one riff on a guitar. And I'd be like, I don't really want to hear the Jimmy Buffett version of Alice's Restaurant. But here I am being like, yeah, I like this. This is great.
Well, I think the thing is that like Alice's Restaurant Massacre is a very different performance than God's Own Drunk, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you think about it, it really is just rambling and telling us, a story where you hit all the main points over a single riff for a long time.
Alice's Restaurant is like, it is like very methodical, I feel like, and very witty. God's Own Drunk is like, it's not necessarily witty, right? Like, a lot of the bit is like just like acting like a drunk fool.
Yeah.
And it's a good bit that Jimmy does well.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed in the intro to this song, or like at the start of it, I think he says at one point, "I've quit drinking 2 weeks ago."
Yeah, great. It's a good performance, and from one good performance to another, as we move to, he went to Paris, which is not just him on guitar. He introduces Tim Krekel, former Coral Reefer guitarist, to come out and join him. And this works really well.
This recording is so good. It's like, it really, between Grapefruit Juicy Fruit and the Captain and the Kid, you kind of get this feeling that like Jimmy is not yet like just by himself is like a little bit like uncomfortable. Like he's really gotten used to performing with other people. But this recording of He Went to Paris, it's like after he was just touring by himself, he was touring with just Roger for a while. So it makes sense that like this is a little bit more in the mode he's used to.
Yeah. This is a song where like the audience was quiet for most of it, right? And going into that last verse, you heard like a few stray like whoops and yelps. And I was really dreading. I was like, oh my God, this is such a beautiful performance. The audience is going to fucking ruin it by as soon as he says some of it's magic, some of it's tragic, but I had a good life all the way. And then nobody says anything. They're all very quiet. And I was very happy to hear that. So good job, audience, not whooping and yelping like drunk fucking morons when he does the Jimmy wisdom of the song.
This is probably my favorite recording of He Went to Paris.
I would say so too.
It's really, really good.
It surprised me that I could hear like it surprised me that like on this album, and to be fair, I think it's nice to know that he still considers He Went to Paris as like one of his personal favorite tracks. Yeah. And it's very clear that he still has a reverence for it. There's a certain song to come that I feel like he's going to end up having more reverence for later, but didn't at this moment in time. But I really appreciate the fact that like I found like a serious reverent performance by Jimmy. On this album.
This is really good. I also
in between Cheeseburger in Paradise and fucking Volcano.
Yeah, I like this recording a lot. I also like it's the fact that like there's so many lines where he's almost like whispering, and it's like it really affected me, this version. I really like it. I also like the intro where like he specifically mentions the Spanish Civil War and like the subject of the song like
Eddie
joining the Abraham Lincoln Brigade to fight Franco. Like
gotta love people who fight fascists, man. So another song that Jimmy Buffett has a lot of reverence for is Captain the Kid, and I have nothing to say about this version of Captain the Kid.
Yeah, I thought this recording of the Captain and the Kid was utterly uninteresting.
All right,
it's another version of it. It's fine. It's whatever.
Okay, so
we moved now into side 4, and this intro is very interesting. The Coral Reefers are back. He's playing with the Coral Reefers again. Yeah. He introduces them all by name.
Oh, this is where he introduced them.
Yeah, by name. He mentions them earlier, but he introduces them by name here. And he talks about interviews he has. He says that sometimes in these interviews, people will ask him which direction his music is heading, and he says south, which is, I would agree, Jimmy.
Image.
But also, his music sure is heading south.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The other thing he says here, which I think is really interesting, is there's another question he gets, which is how can you write those real sensitive songs and then write all that trash? And what he says is, well, I can be real sensitive on occasions and be real trashy on others.
Yeah,
this is the intro to Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw?
Yeah, and there's starting to be a real obvious imbalance between those two sides of Jimmy.
I'm already soured on this song, like really, really heavily.
I told you I was soured on it before we got to White Sport Coat.
Yeah, man. I know, and I predicted that like almost as soon as I heard it. Like people aren't singing along to it here, but like I said that like as soon as I start hearing it live, I think I'm going to turn on it, and I have. It's so. I got a waterbed. It's filled up with Elmer's glue. What the fuck are you talking about?
If you remember back on the K-San recording, he mentioned at one point, he didn't do this song, but he mentioned at one point, like, it's nice to get away from all those drunk morons, like screaming, why don't we get drunk and screw? And then this time, he spent a couple, by the way, songs like teasing everyone, being like, everybody's just waiting for that one song. We're going to get to them. We got to do them one at a time. Everybody wants to hear the one song.
Play them all at once.
And Jimmy's finally like, here's the one song. And people are going nuts. And so like a bit of it you get is frustration, but I think it's a lot more congenial to the audience than what he was saying on the K-San recording, because I think he said it with some venom in his voice on the K-San recording. Yeah. I think part of that is because he was drunk out of his mind, so there was a little bit of honesty in there.
A little bit, yeah, but now, like, Why Don't We Get Drunk is important to the image a little bit. like, which is interesting because it's like they are kind of trying to get him out of like that like sort of hippie hooligan mode that we were talking about during like like early Key West phase. Like now he is starting to become like I've seen his like image referred to in several different like terms, and those terms are like very different things. I'm going to start referring to his image like he has like the old hippie hooligan days, right? Or like the dirtbag days, we might say. Dirtbag beach bum. He's starting to enter a phase of his image that I want to refer to as mayor of Margaritaville.
So
anyway,
let's get off this song.
I hate this song. I hate this recording.
And
let's
have
move
complete
on
whiplash as we move to A Pirate Looks at 40.
Thank God.
Yeah. Okay. I do have to say though, I don't like this recording of Pirate Looks at 40.
I don't think this recording of A Pirate Looks at 40 is like very good.
Yeah, I don't like the way it picks up in the second half of the song. It shouldn't be a faster song.
No, it's supposed to be like quiet, like a mellow track, right? You know, and like there's part of me that wonders like, maybe this should have been like if they were just doing like one side was just Jimmy, like, or maybe like the entire center of the album, like side 2 and 3 were like Jimmy acoustically. This would be there and it would be pretty good probably.
Yeah, I think about like the audience in this song and what the audience of the song is supposed to be, right? Because he talks about it in the intro. He wrote this song with a bunch of people specifically in mind that he knew down in Key West. And I realized like, oh yeah, I mean like the thing is that like all the time he's not touring, Jimmy Buffett's been living in Key West up until this past year. So he's down at the bars and he's performing songs in between all of his tours, at open mic nights, or he's got a residency or whatever the hell. And when he's singing these songs, they have emotional weight for some of the people listening to them, because some of the people listening to them are some of the people he wrote the song about, and they actually refer to them. So it sounds really weird to hear a bunch of people like catcalling and reacting to this song like it's some like arena-pleasing rock song, when probably a very small amount of that audience has ever even sailed, if not like stepped on a beach.
It kind of gets to like a core of Jimmy's music.
Jimmy didn't write it as an escapism song, right? But it's escapism to those people.
Yeah, it's like the fantasy of wandering around Key West drunk and depressed, right? Which is like really it's a
made enough
concept,
money to
it's like
they made enough money to buy Miami, but I pissed it away so fast line gets a big reaction.
I predicted that like A Pirate Looks at 40 was going to be like often like a bomb during these sorts of live albums. I do think that like it is a palate cleanser off of Why Don't We Get Drunk, right? I do think that this recording is like enjoyable. The crowd does make it worse. And like it's definitely like a worse recording than the version that was on A1A.
Yeah, I think I think I would be more okay with the arrangement if I didn't hear any of the audience.
It is like this, generally speaking, the backside, I think that like side 3 really carries like the quality of this album. Side 4 is like just this really insane series of like,
it's a roller coaster of quality.
It's a roller coaster. Because we got like Why Don't We Get Drunk sucks. Pirate Looks at 40, fine. Now we have
Weird
Tampico
mix.
Trauma.
Tampico Trauma, fucking great.
Oh my god. This recording of Tampico Trauma is so fun.
Again, we talked about this when he was belting on Fool Button on the last album, and how Jimmy Buffett is not built for belting. Oh, and on Cheeseburger in Paradise. The thing I love about this song is that it's a real fucking rocker, and he's not belting at all. He's actually pretty mellow the way he sings the entire song.
No, there's one line on this where he belts, which is that he changes "We don't want to see you here again" to "We don't want to see your ass around here again." He kind of like shouts it, and that's honestly kind of fine. And I think part of why it's fine is because it's not like the whole song, which I think is like much more appropriate for Jimmy's talents. I think this recording of Tampico Trauma is really fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's pretty great. It's not great.
Yeah, in fact, it's really like
I would say out of anything ever, I would say officially released on a Jimmy Buffett album, because we've talked a lot about a song that is almost certainly worse that wasn't, thankfully. This is the worst thing Jimmy Buffett's recorded so far, is Morris's Nightmare.
Morris's Nightmare's only peers, Please Take Your Drunk 15-Year-Old Girlfriend Home, and that song was not officially released, which I think was wise.
Yeah. So, I mean, Morris's Nightmare, it's really got the worst of everything. The drum intro, the faux reggae beat. He uses the term Bawana again, like in fucking Pencil Thin Mustache. He mentioned a coconut tree in a line. The
Okay.
refrain is literally just "It's all right, it's all right." It's got this dumb voiceover of like a nagging wife. He's doing like the boomer humor thing.
Literally, it's the music suck, the lyrics suck. The weird outro where like they're just doing the like bad chorus while like what's her name who's doing the backing
Deborah
vocals
McCall.
on this? Deborah McCall is just like doing some sort of weird like literally like nagging like bitch wife routine, and it's like
so this song, when you look at it lyrically, right, it's so chock full of Jimmy Buffett tropes that you really do wonder whether this is the sign that all Jimmy has left to his songs are using the same 20 general snippets of ideas and just rearranging them in different ways for the rest of his career.
We talked about how the hidden verse of Margaritaville has like this like vacation pastiche in it, right?
Yeah.
This song is
and it's
explicitly
contemporary with this. It's contemporary with this.
Yeah, this is like the first real like Jimmy Buffett vacation pornography like pastiche, and it's real bad.
Yep, it's real bad.
It's not trashy. It's not campy. It's just bad. I cannot fucking believe this is one of the encores. They have usually 3 encores. This recording only has 2 of them which sucks because like the traditional final encore was Last Line, which is not on this, which is a big shame.
And it's really a shame that we couldn't pick it up with something that is there's nowhere to go but up from Morris's Nightmare at this point in Jimmy Buffett's career. That may not always be the case, but we get to the actual closer, which is Dixie Diner, and it's just
it's basically
that's
just
the
like,
last 5.5 minutes of the album. Okay.
Yeah.
I I frankly dislike that the last actual impression I get from the album is fucking Morris's Nightmare, because I have nothing to say about Dixie Diner.
No, Dixie Diner is like we talked a little bit about like
it's just there that they can jam.
Like,
it's just there that
your
they
palate
can jam.
From Why Don't We Get Drunk, right?
Yeah,
and it works there because Pirate Looks at 40 is very good, but like Morris's Nightmare is much worse than Why Don't We Get Drunk, and Dixie Diner does not pick it up. I like
if we could get the last line, man, that would have been a good palate cleanser for the end of the album.
That would have finished it out strong, but it doesn't. We get this, which is like it has like kind of a fun intro that I kind of like, and then it is just like an extended rock instrumental, like a extended rock and roll instrumental. We should be clear, like that's what this is, and it's fine. It's fine. It is like honestly like a very strong contender. It would be a very strong contender in other senses for like AHAG stuff if it didn't have like this intro, because it doesn't have any lyrics, and also Jimmy didn't write it, so it doesn't really matter.
This is I would assume it must be, a crowd pleaser, band introduction, big jam song that Larry Raspberry and the High Steppers, I think, was the name of the group that did it.
So I'm wondering if I'm noticing
Greg Taylor co-wrote it. I think he was part of Larry Raspberry and the High Steppers.
I was gonna say it looks like Fingers is on this like writing credit.
Yeah, and of course he's mic'd up. He's talking in the intro, and then he gets to go crazy on the harp in this song. So I think it is meant to be a vehicle for jamming.
It's a vehicle for jamming, and that's what's supposed to end on. But it's like I feel very strange about that, considering like so much of Jimmy's output to this point has been like singer-songwriter stuff. Like ending with like an extended instrumental jam is like it's kind of out there. Like
it's been a while since we've had that, because the extended instrumental jams, they kind of stopped after High Cumberland Jubilee.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know.
We had a couple of weird ones for a while, but they weren't really extended instrumental jams.
I think this one would be. Here's the thing. If this album ended on Tampico Trauma and then went into Dixie Diner as the ending, I think that would be a little bit annoying, because I think Tampico Trauma would be a better like ending.
Yeah.
If the song that immediately preceded Dixie Diner was a better song, even if it was like a Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw, I think it would be fine. It's the fact that it follows Morris's Nightmare.
Yeah. Oh, so you just have it really poisons the well, that song.
Like, you have to sit there with Morris's Nightmare just like running in your head while you listen to this like very bland, fine rock instrumental. And it's grim, folks. Most of the album is somewhere between fine and enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's just that it ends on such a sour note.
Yeah, because frankly, like the other 90% of this album, or whatever it is, it would work out to essentially just be like it's an average like live album because it's got some good, it's got some crap, doesn't have anything like I think the worst thing by that point would just be like the songs are already disliked, like Pencil Thin Mustache and Why Don't We Get Drunk?
Like Miss You So Badly, which is just like it just fades into nothing.
Yeah.
You know, Why Do We Ever Go Home? It's like, and those aren't that like Perrier Blues. Like these songs aren't bad. They just fill space. That's totally bog standard for Jimmy's albums.
Yeah.
We've had a ton of Jimmy albums that we like that have a bunch of songs that just feel like they're filling space on them. But it's like Morris's Nightmare.
Yeah, Morris's Nightmare is just absolute fucking drag.
It's really like I have a general thoughts section that I end all of my notes with. Like I go through every song on the album and I write notes about the songs and then I write general thoughts at the end, right? And my general thoughts section starts by continuing to talk about Morris's Nightmare because it really it leaves such an impression and it is not a good one.
It now seems like a good time of any to bring up our old friend Head Parrothead from June of 2000. And he writes, the only thing you need to know about this live set is that these live versions really complement the studio versions. And, you know, frankly, I don't disagree with
that. Yeah.
What I do disagree with are the next 4 sentences. The 3 new songs on this set alone are worth the purchase of the disc. False. Dixie Diner will set you on fire if you aren't already. False. The heat just keeps rising with Perrier Blues. False. And are you ready for it? But the best song on here has to be Morris's Nightmare. With its rockin' reggae sound, it really bites deep. Score 5 for 5 Coronas. And now the part of the podcast where Tom gives his threat of the day to Head Parrothead.
Head Parrothead. I disagree with you.
Keeping it very reserved today, aren't you?
I
Tom's letter to Head Parrothead every.
If I said the things that were in my brain, I worry they would be legally actionable.
So
instead, I have chosen to say instead, I disagree with you.
I'll give you another review by user Tiki Torches from May of 2010. It's just one line and it's something more general to discuss. I think it's less egregious than anything Head Parrothead's ever written.
Okay,
but it's a good discussion point. He says, you had to be there as vintage Buffett before the crass commercialism and the Parrothead phenomenon set in. And obviously that's false. But
it's an interesting point. Like
it's an interesting point that this is what a Parrothead believes. We're sitting here and we're already thinking the crass commercialism. Okay, maybe the crass commercialism hasn't happened yet, but the Parrothead phenomenon is definitely already there. It's very obvious.
Like, it is like just starting to arrive at this point. I think that like.
Well, I mean, I think the crass commercialism specifically comes with the copywriting of the Margaritaville business name, right? Like, that point on, that's the crass commercialism. But the Parrothead phenomenon, yes, is definitely
it's here. Yeah. There's part of me that wonders about, like, maybe this live album is, like, an important aspect for that to, like, start, right? Like, obviously, like, Changes in Latitudes is, like, is these 3 albums that sort of metastasize, like, that moment, right? It is, or 4, really, I guess, because Changes in Latitudes, right? Hugely important.
Changes through Volcano, you're saying.
Yeah, Changes through Volcano. Like, this is that transitionary period where Jimmy goes from, like, this, like, sort of tropically oriented singer-songwriter into kitschy tropical rock artist.
It is my opinion, I've mentioned this before, like I think of Changes being like an accidental watershed. Like it very much, you can see where it follows from A1A and Havana Daydreaming, but obviously it starts off that new era. So I tend to extend it to the album after Volcano, Coconut Telegraph 2. I think that might partly be because of the name and the title track, Coconut Telegraph, because I've only listened to that album one time, and it was a while ago, so we'll see in 2 weeks when we do it. But I think that is an extension of it as well.
We'll definitely talk about it. My argument is that the next album, Volcano, is like the real, like, important like album for like creating Parrotheads, largely because like that album has 3 songs in the Big 8 on it.
Yeah, that's That's more than changes in latitude, isn't it?
It is.
Because
It's got Finn's Volcano and boat drinks. Like,
yeah, and 2 of those songs, spoiler alert for Steel Drum Watch next week, have steel drums on it.
Yeah, they sure do.
So anyway, do you have a Steel Drum Watch this week?
He went to Jimmy, looking for steel drums bothering him so. Well, steel drum killed his lady, left him with only one question. Which way do I steer from my steel drums?
it kind of. It's interesting, right? Because this album doesn't have any like of this exotica like tropical instrumentation on
Yeah,
it, right?
there's a bit of percussion.
There's
that
a bit,
anvil that we mentioned.
There's the anvil. There's a little bit of like I think a guiro on Morris's Nightmare.
Yeah,
but
of course,
like,
Morris's Nightmare is done in a reggae fashion.
Yeah, but for the most part, this album is like it is really like we are entering like tropical rock, right? We are like out of like that sort of country aligned singer-songwriter with exotica instrumentation. This is like tropical rock has begun to be the thing that Jimmy is doing. And this is like, you know, there's no exotica instrumentation on this thing. It is all this. There's several songs in which, you know, they have like important like musical stings, like melody parts that are played by, you know, a vibraphone or like a kalimba on previous albums
that are just like piano or organ here.
Yeah. Margaritaville's the most like obvious thing where it's like instead of having the vibraphones, it is just like this like nothing piano sting, which is like, you know, probably an important sign for like why those become like such an important part of Jimmy's like touring like on like instrumentation in future, because like it really does like Margaritaville needs that stuff to be like okay. The piano stings just don't work, but it's this really interesting thing where it's like they're playing the exotica music, they're playing like the tropical rock music, right? They are not playing it with the instruments. It's kind of messy in places because of that. In some places it's fun, but for the most part it's just strange.
Well, we do actually have some boat drinks to talk about here.
Boat drinks. I think I got boat drink fever. Beatrice, I drink 6 more boat drinks. 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 Somebody sound the alarm.
Yeah, well, I mean, so first of all, I mean, retroactively, we're adding another to the cocktails with the Purple Passions.
Oh, right.
But yeah, folks, if you didn't think that I hated Morris's Nightmare enough, there is a mention of a boat drink that we've come to know very well recently in Jimmy Buffett's career. Unfortunately, this is our 7th mention of rum in his discography.
That's
in
grim.
3 albums.
That's grim.
Yeah,
Oh,
so rundown. Beer and wine at 10 mentions each. In second place with 7 mentions is rum. Whiskey at 5. Also cocktails at 5, containing 1 Bloody Mary, 1 Margarita, 1 Havana, 1 Daiquiri, and 1 Purple Passion. 2 mentions of tequila, 1 mention each of gin and scotch. I said it last week. We are past the rum insurgency point, and it is not letting up, folks. It is not letting up.
Well, I don't love this. I don't think this album's great. There's a couple of recordings on it I think are fun. I'm unlikely to go back and listen to it.
No, probably not. Ultimately, I shudder to think that this is still going to be his most enjoyable live album for us, because it's the only one that was recorded before he added steel drums to the live band.
Also probably the last one before like the big 8 metastasizes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's going to be fully formed by next week. Which for us, again, listeners, it's in 4 days for us that we will be there. It is February 2nd, folks.
Oh God, what have we done to ourselves?
It's time to end this, mother. It's time to end this, mother.
I did not look at any reviews for this because it's a live album.
Yeah, folks, we will see you again next week for Volcano. But for now, I've been Kyle.
I'm Tom.
Thanks for listening to Discoriography, Wastin Away 2026. Play us out, Jimmy.
Wasting away again, away again. It's my own damn fault.